Women today have tremendous opportunities, hope, and power to claim. We truly can do anything our minds conceive that mold and shape our world and the people around us. But why is it, more often than not, women collectively reject or deny their power, sometimes by force and other times by choice? As a mom and an integrative physician, I was disturbed to see this happening, and it led me to ask, what's going on here? Could it be that it's rooted in the DNA of women, that we're genetically programmed to give up our power? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the female brain. The story I bring to you today is hard-fought and hard-won. As an integrative physician, I have sat with thousands of women in my exam rooms, listening to their stories of tragedy and triumph. As a writer, I am desperate to detail the struggles and the heroism of the women I meet every day. As a daughter of immigrants, I know the story of my mother and my grandmothers. And as a wife, I have had to step beyond my boundaries to embrace a family unlike mine and understand their culture, their religion, and their values. I guess that makes me an integrator or a bartender of sorts, mixing together medicine, culture, religion, history, and science. Sometimes I feel like the bartender, stepping back to observe while the party continues in front of me. In my early years, I used to get really frustrated with women. Why would you stay with that guy? Why would you not fight oppression? Why would you stay silent in the face of abuse? Patience is not one of my strengths, and my intolerance would lead to frustration and irritability, losing a few friends and acquaintances along the way. But what if I told you that these decisions, seemingly external or a function of our will, are embedded in our DNA? They're molded and rooted in our chemistry. That there is a science to empowerment, and to empower women in totality, we simply have to help them understand their chemistry, change their DNA, and embrace their authenticity. It is our collective responsibility to change the trajectory of disempowerment, or societies, as we have already seen, will fail. Without healthy and empowered women, societies fail, countries crumble, and the children are simply forgotten, swept away as collateral damage. But wait a minute. What if we have the power to change it all? There exists a challenge, a responsibility that we as women carry with us. It winds us back to our earliest ancestors, and it connects us to what we know about the primitive brain. It links together the knowledge of DNA, mitochondrial DNA, and the anatomy of thought and energy. From early archaeological findings, we know that the size of our brain and the shape of our heads differs from our prehistoric ancestors. From the enlarged frontal cortex to the embossed forehead, thankfully, we look far different than we did in earlier times. But while geologists dig for bones, the new way to track our inheritance, our history, and even our migration is to study mitochondrial DNA, or the DNA that's inherited from the mother. In fact, ancestral studies use mitochondrial DNA to track familial roots and origins. The mitochondrial genome exists outside of the center of the cells, so it can't be recombined with other cells, providing scientists and archaeologists a direct genetic link without the influence of the father or the Y chromosome. Let's take a look. We know that our brains today have evolved from the early primitive brain, and we do know that the male brain is larger than the female brain, but the female brain has more surface area and more volume, making it a more efficient organ. But we all already knew that. At the same time, take a look at DNA, the very molecule held in families and passed down over generations. We're learning so much every day about what's coded in DNA. While we know that how we look or our intelligence are coded in DNA, including our phenotypic traits like our hair color and our eye color, we're learning that there's so much more there, including the keys to our emotional landscape. Take a look at a picture of a cell. Every cell has DNA, and every cell has mitochondrial DNA. And every organ is made up of billions of these cells, every piece of us reverberating with all this information coded down over time and over history, maybe even from prehistoric times. Your brain, one of these organs, is essentially a computer, coded with microchips and a memory, more gigabytes, I'm sure, than my Apple account, all held in DNA and passed down over the generations through the maternal line. Here's what we know about mitochondrial DNA. Studies show that certain sequences in mitochondrial DNA are linked to cognition, to memory, to attention, to emotion, and to the ability to multitask. It is the storehouse for the thoughts and emotions of your mother, your grandmother, and her great-grandmother. Finally, let's review what we know about thought, the anatomy of thought, and energy. We understand today, without getting too much into quantum physics, that all thought is essentially energy, that the brain then processes and records. We can actually see in research how the size of our brain and the shape of our cells changes in response to our thoughts. Let me stop for just a second. We've got our brains, we've got DNA, we've got mitochondrial DNA, and then we have thought, which is essentially energy. There's also fascinating research on vibrational energy and how every thought and every emotion is essentially a vibration that's recorded on our cells, these billions of cells that we have and walk around with every day. Let's take a look. Once we know and once we understand this concept of where we go with DNA, then we understand that our thoughts matter and determine our daily decisions. We are essentially coding and computing, processing and responding to every moment of every day. And all this data, all this information, and here's the challenge, held in DNA and passed down generation after generation. In fact, there's some thought that it takes up to 7 generations to reprogram our coding fully. Stop for a second and let's absorb this responsibility. If we follow this line of reasoning, does that mean we have learned or are fighting the genetic imprinting of our maternal ancestors? We're still fighting their fight. Is this why we say yes and don't say no? Is this why a strong woman chooses the wrong partner or can't protect her financial interest? Is this why we resort to tribal behavior, stepping on each other to get to the man or the perceived power source, sacrificing our sisterhood along the way? Think about the implications here. That means that groups that are disenfranchised today will struggle for generations to reclaim their identity and their power as the experience of one generation is slowly diluted over time. When this hit me, I was stunned, but I was relieved. I finally get it. I get why women sacrifice their interests, why they can't claim and own their power. We're still fighting their fight. We have to change this, or our children will be fighting the same fight, and it will take exponentially longer to change the course of history. But here is the best news of all. We have the power to change this by embracing the power of thought, understanding its connection to our actions, and recognizing the past. We can reshape the future. Women everywhere need to band together, need to take hold of their chemistry, take responsibility for their minds, and listen to your intuition. Listen to that voice that guides you and sees you at your highest, not the one that sacrifices you, or ask you to hurt another woman. You have to do this. Sing, dance, pray, do yoga, go to an ashram, go take a hike, meditate. I don't care. Just do something. But you have to find a way to own your chemistry and harness your mind, because every thought and emotion is with action and with consequence for generations. When we're gone, we want to leave this world a better place than when we found it. We want our daughters to fight their fight, not our fight. So yes, you can change your DNA. You can influence what's passed down. And if we all did this, we could change the world. This is the time, the moment to embrace this responsibility. Wherever you are in the world, don't settle for second best. Stand up, fight for your rights, and claim your power. Our daughters and our granddaughters are watching. Thank you.